It's the J Bass Today Show. Get ready for a good time, a good time. It's the J Bass Today Show. Get ready to ride.
Welcome to the J Bass Today Show. Thank you so much for riding with me, and I hope you enjoy the show. Season's greetings. God bless you to each of you, and welcome to the J Bass Today Show. As you see, my special guest is getting ready to come on, my very own co-host of the Chantae Show, but today she is my special guest here on the J Bass Today Show. We'll get to learn some more about her and the great things that God is doing in and through her life. However, as I was reading through our daily bread, this lesson really stood out when I thought about her, and I pray that it blesses you and gives you some insight into who you are about to meet. It's from August 29th of 2017. It's entitled Overflowing Fruit. During the spring and summer, I admire the fruit growing in our neighbor's yard. Their cultivated vines climb a shared fence to produce large bunches of grapes. Branches dotted with purple plums and plump oranges dangle just within our reach. Although we don't till the soil, plant the seeds, or water and weed the garden, the couple next door shares their bounty with us. They take responsibility for nurturing their crops and allow us to delight in a portion of their harvest. The produce from the trees and vines on the other side of our fence reminds me of another harvest that benefits me and the people God places in my life. That harvest is the fruit of the Spirit. Christ followers are commissioned to claim the benefits of living by the power of the Holy Spirit. As God's seeds of truth flourish in our hearts, the Spirit produces an increase in our ability to express love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Once we surrender our lives to Jesus, we no longer have to be controlled by our self-centered inclinations. Over time, the Holy Spirit can change our thinking, our attitudes, and our actions. As we grow and mature in Christ, we can have the added joy of loving our neighbors by sharing the benefits of his generous harvest. Lord, please cultivate the fruit of the Spirit in our hearts and minds so our neighbors can enjoy your sweet fragrance in and through our lives. The fruit of the Spirit changes us so we can impact the lives of those around us. Today's reading is Galatians 5, chapter 5, verses 16 through 25. And the key verse is John chapter 15, verse 16, which says, I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit that will last. Now introducing Miss Chantae Armstrong.
It's the J Bass Today Show. Get ready to ride.
All right, welcome, Chantae. How are you?
Great show.
I am so glad that you're here. I mean, we're so used to doing this on the Chantae Show. So how does it feel to actually be the special guest today?
Honored.
All right.
Nervous.
Uh-oh, yeah, because you just never know. You never know. You truly never know, especially at this very moment, because you know. Oh, oh, okay. So you just got off work. You are working at a school, a Christian school, and just, kind of share with us what that experience is like on a day-to-day basis, being able. One of the things I want to throw out there before you even get on, because I don't want you to take this away from me, to be able to say that you actually get to listen to your gospel music and stir the kids up with the music, and hearing those stories and the impact that they have and that it's having on them is inspiring to me. And so kind of walk us through that. Mm-hmm.
So I do work at a Christian school. This is my second year there. And I just almost had to just calm myself down just then. Because I was just talking to a parent right before I left, and she was telling me the impact that she could tell that I'm having on her daughter, with not only Black history, but with singing and stuff. She's been going home singing, "I'm so happy."
Okay.
Like,
All right.
she's like, "Oh no, no, mommy, not the nursery rhyme, I'm so happy. The Jesus, I'm so happy."
All right.
She had no idea, of course, what she was talking about, but it's rewarding. I look forward to going to work every day, because you hear horror stories of, public school, and I don't have to have those horror stories, but I can pull out my Bible, and I can use prayer prompts, and I can pull up the songs that minister to me throughout the day, and then before you know, my babies are singing it. So it's rewarding. It is.
As a musician, I think one of the things that kind of hit me one time we were talking, I think you had been on Marco Polo, and you were telling the kids, you were threatening them to turn off the music because they were singing and not working. And so, just to hear of that impact, I think that is so beautiful.
It makes it worth it. Being tired, but to think about what you left in them for that day makes it all worth it.
Yeah. And I think about even the students that may not go to church, that they are the ones who are able to go home and share the light of Christ, the word of Christ. And you just never know the seed that you're planting and God is using you to plant. That, reading the verse about fruit of the Spirit and the fruits that will last, that you will bear fruit and fruit that will last. That's one way that our fruit lasts. It was saying about sharing with our neighbors. And so these kids are your neighbors, and it's no telling where they will go, who they will become as a result of having been in your class. And, even if there are other teachers who share their music is not like your music, the music that inspires you. And so you're putting up another culture, giving them another cultural aspect of music. So that's beautiful.
I really am. I find different songs for my kids to listen to every day, and I try to bring a new one every day. And today I bought "Leaning on the Everlasting," the hymn.
Oh, okay.
And, it's a kids version, but my co-teacher, she was like, "Oh, like I've never heard it this way," and of course it's a little bit pumped up. So the kids are leaning and they leaning.
Okay, excuse us. Okay.
The kids are in African clothes, so that's really why I chose that one for this month. But I can just notice how I am making a difference where I am. I'll just say that it's a difference being brought into the facility, because I go in, you never know. I may go in one day in jeans and a t-shirt with my God shirt. Next, I may go with a full church dress on.
Oh, okay.
With my big pearls and all of that.
Oh, okay.
That makes people ask questions. So, I'm making a difference.
Okay. Well, that is amazing to hear, and to just know, that your light is shining and it's making a difference where you are. That really says a lot. You've hosted your second conference this year.
Yes.
And what I'm noticing, one of the things I'm noticing about you is that you are in the making of a truly official and should be well sought after event planner. The attention to detail that you gave to your conference, even though things didn't go as you planned them to, you had a lot of things that were obstacles that kind of, in what we were talking about, kind of shattered you as you were trying to get other people to get there to get healed. Your yes caused you to be shattered. And so as a result of hearing this, and, just thinking about how now God has moved upon our hearts to host the next conference, because we were talking about doing a Cost of a Yes conference years ago. And I think we were halted by COVID, and we have not done it. What have we done it since?
No,
I don't think we've done. Okay. And so we need to pick that back up, because we were talking about doing it again. And so after you were shattered because of as a direct result of your yes to host the conference, that we sought to merge the two. And so just, can you kind of run down to the listening audience what the combination of these two conferences say to you and why you believe they should register to come?
For one, shattered, just hearing the word shattered, it can go either way. You can feel like my life is shattered, or you can feel like God is doing something in my life to bring me back together. You know what I'm saying? In my case, when I did shattered, I was shattered. So that's the aspect I took with it. I took it and I ran with it, knowing that there was others out there in the world shattered that I'm connected to, that I'm, may know from just distance that they're shattered. But you also have to know that saying yes to God is going to come with something. It's going to cost you something. So when you say yes to God, it's going to cost you being shattered. Ain't no way around it. Unfortunately, it's going to come with saying yes. Saying yes to God. It's going to cost you. Now, it may not always come with feeling shattered or being shattered, but you just never know. And because that's my testimony, and I know there's others out there that feel that way, let's combine and let's do it. Let's get people healed. That's the process. That's the goal, is to make sure people are walking around with the tools of being healed and not suffering in silence.
As I listened to you say that, it just kind of brought to mind those who serve in the church. I was saying this the other week, that it's those of us who actually are behind the scenes of the church. And even now, serving as an elder at our church, now I've become privy to information behind the scenes that I would not know as just a member. If I was just a bench member that just came on a Sunday to Sunday basis, there are things that I wouldn't know. And sometimes, the closer that you're working in the church, you find out that everybody, you should realize that every person working in the church is just as human as you are, and is subject to error, is subject to mistakes, is subject to issues. And it brings me back to just the thought of the things that were being said about Bishop. And your yes, that was, to me, part of the cost of his yes. Can't you just imagine you're doing all you can to serve your family, to serve your church, to serve your community, and worldwide, and then to be shunned or to be made fun of and talked about in such a way? We've talked about this, but between Bishop, between Meghan and Harry, what are some things that you would say to someone? Because your influence, our influence may not be worldwide right now. Even though when we broadcast on YouTube, anyone anywhere in the world can pick this up. We're not getting feedback and people from different countries, but just the fact of you said yes, and because of your yes, and the thing is, I was thinking this too when you were talking, that it may not necessarily be that you were shattered, but the thing is, you've been broken down through the years, and sometimes you're already broken and trying to mend those pieces back together. Then something else happened to fracture those pieces, and then you find yourself shattered. And so, what do you say to someone who is experiencing? They're dead center in being shattered right now. What would you say to them?
I would tell them to hold on to God's unchanging hand, to literally seek God like never before, to stay focused, to surround yourself with people that truly care about you and that can uplift you, and to find a scripture and a song that ministers to you, and let it get in you every day. Wake up, put it on, go to bed listening to it, because it makes a difference when you actually put God's word in you. And then you try to, I call it a seesaw. It's like up and down, but the more you put God's word in you, the more that the devil and those feelings have to go down. The more that those shattered moments and those shattered thoughts, it just gets sunk because you're overpowering it with God's word, through music, through scripture, through encouragement, through your friends and family, different things like that.
I don't know. Have you seen the Bible study, which ended up really was a sermon to me, by Dr. Oscar Williams from last week. Okay, it's entitled "Reclaiming My Seat." You really need to see that, watch that, because I would go deeper into it, but the main premise was how we yield our seat to the enemy when we listen to some of the rhetoric and things that people say to us and the things that happen, and then we start, instead of claiming our spiritual seat, which is seated with Christ in the heavenly places, that we yield our seat to the enemy and to his devices and his lies and deceit. You know, we yield to that instead of standing on the truth. And I was honestly waiting on you to say what you said to me many times when I find myself in those places when I've yielded my seat, that this too shall pass. We're sitting here today because everything that we have been through leading up to this moment has come and it has passed. There may be some things that we're dealing with now, but the things that, you know, I just think about some of the more pressing things that we've had happen over the course of our lives and that we've shared with one another and we've witnessed with one another, that all that has happened. And here we are.
You know, I always say expiration. Everything has an expiration date. And I find myself now looking at expiration dates, even though I know it's still good, just that peace of mind to know that one day it ain't gonna be good. You know, one day it's gonna be molded and it's gonna be in the trash. And that gives you hope that to hold on to one day that whatever you're going through, it's gonna be over, it's gonna be in the sea, you're gonna be moved on to the next thing, the next task in life, the next situation, the next shattering moment. Oh my God. Because it's so tough.
And that's the thing. I think we were talking about that as we've been going through the book Crushing, just kind of acknowledging and accepting that more crushing is coming, more pruning is coming. And I remember you did not like the thought of that. It brought pause to you. But as you think, you know, as we think, like, seriously, just with what we've been through, even though the elevation may seem minuscule, just the fact of, I would say, how we handle things better in this season is a true sign of growth. So what do you think about just that thought of, you know, that you actually, okay, I'll say it like this. It makes a difference when you see that the crushing is actually yielding some kind of fruit and some kind of positive and good return. What do you say to that?
You know, honestly, old Chantae would say it didn't matter, but it does matter. I do know that in this moment that it matters because you're going to meet somebody. I don't care if you're in the store, if it's somebody personal that you know, somebody you're going to come across, or there's a story that you're going to hear something, and you're going to be able to give them something positive to help them in that situation. So it matters, and it definitely makes you feel good when you've been able to help a person. You know, I don't think that nobody wants to be in a storm. We all know that. But we know at the end of the storm, or nobody wants to be in a rain or a tornado or a hurricane. But once you walk outside, everything is torrid, but you look up in the sky and it's a beautiful rainbow. You know, so we always hear there's a rainbow at the end, and it's worth it. It makes you think God chose me because I could be strung out on the street. I could be dead, or I could be behind prison, but he chose me to go through this to be able to help somebody to survive it, not only go through it, but to survive it, to be able to help the next person, because our generation is looking at us, whether we believe it or not. There's somebody looking at you, whether they make a comment or anything, they're watching you. And we have to be that light. We have to go through it and just help them.
You know, I'm thinking when you said somebody's watching, it just made me think, and it's so sad, my mind went to a totally different place, but that a lot of our videos from the Chantae show, the J Bass Today show, you know, have maybe 2 or 3 views. And so sometimes the question is raised, even just like with T-Lock, when it's only 3 of us that are T-Lock members that show up to a rehearsal. And then for the month before that, it's like, why do you keep going? Why do you keep yielding time to record these videos and to post them and to share this content. And I just kind of want to know, what is your why? Why are you hosting the conferences? Why are you continually showing up to church and serving as the choir president? Why are you filming these shows? Why are you showing up as special guests? Even in the new endeavor that you're doing that we can't speak about just yet. I got to have you back. But even, all these different things, why do you keep showing up? What's your why?
Because I believe God. I believe his promises. No matter what it looks like, no matter how I feel, I believe that his word is going to come to pass for my life. I don't know what he has planned for me. Whatever he had planned for me in my mother's womb, it's already coming to pass, but I just have to walk in it. Showing up to places where things don't look like it. Let me say, when things don't seem the way it should be, or things are not in place as they should be, it could be discouraging, but at the same time, you have to know that your labor is not in vain and your reward is for you. So if you show up for somebody else, then what are you doing it for? Because when you go before God, it's not going to be you and everybody else. It's just going to be you and God. And he say you, well done for showing up, for going, for continuing on. It's going to make it worth it at the end. I keep saying it's making it worth it because I'm trying to encourage it's making it worth. It's going to be worth it. Yeah. And I thought about when you were saying that, how many times are we in church and the pastor opened up the doors and those 2 chairs are empty? After all the praying, the singing, as much as the pastors pour out, as much as the choirs pour out, the ushers are standing there with their feet hurting. Everybody put things into church and those chairs are empty. Do we stop going to church? Do we stop worshiping?
Wow, that's good.
No, we have to continue on and just let God keep doing the work in that person. You don't know what, and I believe too, us showing up, God is doing something for us. Us doing a JT show or, reading Crushing, we're hoping that it's going to help somebody in the future. But as of right now, it's helping us in our now moment.
That's right.
It's helping us in our season. So that's my response.
Go Tank. Okay. But it's the truth. Yeah. It really is the truth. And we're both taking composition this semester, and you've been doing a whole lot more writing than I have. But the topics that my teacher has chosen for us, I didn't so much like. We only have 4 topics. So we only have 4 journals. Sorry, Chantae, because you've been doing a lot of writing. But the second topic was about fairy tales. I didn't really care about that one, but the first one really has engaged me into this class. And now the first one was called The Power of Story. And our lives are totally made up of stories. We hear story after story after story every day. Yeah. Every day. The things that we're teaching, even I was thinking about this earlier this morning, that even the Bible is a story that we're being told, and that we have a choice to believe or not to believe. You said you believe the promises, and the thing is, we have a choice whether to believe the story or not. And that kind of stood out to me. And now we're talking about the human condition and what it means to be a human, and a lot of one of the questions that was asked is what makes us human. And I thought that was a very, very, very good question. And just questions that are opening our mind up to, and even just like Crushing, the things that we're looking at, the things that we're reading are opening our minds up to new thoughts and perspectives that we had not originally thought of. And this last story that we just read, and we all had to do group presentation and stuff today, or get in groups and kind of share what we got out of our groups. Anyway, and it was about a story of a guy who basically, you could tell he was depressed. He went to work at a job, and there were things on the job that he would prefer not to do. And even though the boss would ask him to do it, his response would be, I prefer not to do it. And he would not do it. Okay. I said, okay. But then, after a while, he stopped even doing what his job required. but he stayed in his office, and come to find out he's squatting at the job. The owner goes in on a Sunday and finds him there, and he'd not been working. And so the owner was battling himself because he was supposed to be at church that day, but he wanted to go through and see if this guy was still at the office, and found him there. And so he ended up missing church. But what I thought about is he's on his way to church, so that means he obviously has some devotion to religion, or possibly even a relationship, because you could tell in the writing that he's torn on how to respond to this guy. You're in my business office, I'm paying you to work, and you're not working. You're telling me no, that you prefer not to. Now we said we prefer not, we prefer this and prefer that. We wasn't using that word before you came in and talked about what you prefer. And it goes on, he ends up, the owner moves buildings to try to get rid of the guy, because he tried to put him out and he wouldn't leave. He tried to give him money. He was thinking of all kinds of things. He was really on an emotional roller coaster. And I'm leading somewhere with this. That's why I'm kind of going into it. That he moves buildings, and he's going to just be done with the guy. But the people who move in realize he was the reason that the guy came there in the first place, and they're trying to get him to come get him out of there. And when that doesn't work, they end up calling him off, getting him carted off to prison, which was what the guy was hoping wouldn't happen, but he wouldn't leave. And so he ended up there, and he stopped eating and ended up dying. And, it just made me think about, when we talk about the human condition, our compassion, our empathy and sympathy for other human beings, for our love for them, our compassion towards them, our willingness to be able to help. And I have noticed that in you, that you are willing to help. We've talked so many times about how prison ministry really ministers to us, and how it feels that it's even a different atmosphere going to minister in the prison than it is going to minister in a church service, and how really it's a preference to actually go into the prison because you're more received, and you could tell that their hearts are more receptive to receive what God has put in your heart to share. And so just, what are your thoughts when you hear that? You think about the power of story and its influence in our lives, and our human condition when it comes to the way we're treating one another, and the stories that we're telling one another, and the story we're telling ourselves.
One thing I've had to deal with in 34 years is, who am I? Because from a childhood, you hear this, and this. When you're in school, you hear this, and this. When you're an adult, you hear this, and this.
Story
you
after
start to
story,
believe,
story.
Or you start to think like, am I this? Am I that? Like, who am I? And I see a therapist, and one thing she had me do was to write like different things, positive things about yourself. Because you hear so much negative, and you see so much negative, you see the flaws in yourself, you see the roles, this. So not only are you hearing it, but you're seeing it physically. So that starts to mess with who you are and make you feel like, okay, I'm not worthy, I'm not this, but you have to look at the bigger picture, of who you are. Someone says I'm this because clearly I'm making an impact on their life. Because if I wasn't, you wouldn't be able to say nothing about me. You got to see the negative with the positive. Your character and different things like that. One thing about me is that people think I'm mean because of how I carry myself. But if a person only can get to know your heart, and see that on the inside that you're really not that person, and don't realize that life has made you feel, or situations have brought this person out, or made you look like this person, even though on the inside you're just trying to guard yourself for different things like that. And I feel like we have to be careful, because you don't know that a person could be inches from jumping off a cliff, taking a pill, or ruining someone's day. One thing I'm trying to work on now is customer service. When I go somewhere I'm not the only customer that they've seen that day. They've seen some Christians, they've seen some non-believers, they've seen all type of people, frustrated people, happy people. And it's what are you doing in that moment to make an impact on their life that can help them in that situation? Because one smile can change a whole person's day. One thank you, one something, even hugging, Lord help, could change a person, how a person feels. That's what I feel.
Okay. All right. And so I just, I'm thinking now about your journey in school, kind of talking about school, and just kind of I'm thinking, what are you feeling being back, and that you have and are exceeding your expectations that you initially set for yourself. How does that feel?
Shocking, because I've done school so many times, went to college and dropped out, still having to pay for dropping out of college. It was 2007, 2008. But I feel like it's rewarding at the same time because God is rewarding me in this area for doing his work. You know what I'm saying? Like, although school is difficult at times, challenging, time consuming, it's rewarding. And I know that at the end it's going to be worth it to have that piece, even though it's just a piece of paper, but just to say, I did it. After all these years, after all the papers, all the stand up, thinking about it, even laying down, like, your to-do list just for school, the writing assignments and all that, it's worth it.
Oh my God.
It just to have that paper and then to look on Brightspace and see the hundreds just straight.
Okay, come on. Okay, all right. All right, streaming. Okay. I'll say, come on now. All right. Okay. I thought you was gonna continue on about the hundreds now, but okay. Okay. That really is a blessing. It really is. And it's something to say, after all these years, to come back and to excel when you know how your past has gone. And I think that is a testament of leaving the past behind and really taking hold of the moments that are here and available to us now. I want to ask, how important to you is it to have people around to encourage you? I think about some of the T-Lock members and sometimes some of their posts and the things that I read from them feeling certain kind of ways and the things that they're going through. And so I know, you've said that I have a leader's heart, and I feel like, even though I don't make a lot of calls, I don't, contact I barely talk to my own mama. So I rarely talk or, communicate with people, but they're in my prayers and on my mind and things. And I think, that's part of the ministry God has given me, is to have a heart for those who are the overlooked, that are the shunned, the ones that are struggling, to have somebody who is supportive or in their corner. And that's that. I think I've been thinking that, that's something that we've got to do better on, is when our members are celebrating wins, if somebody's graduating or doing something special, that we be there to support or at least show love in that moment and let them know that they are rallying around. And even when they're having low moments, that if we can say something, if we can show them that you are not alone in this, and that you have someone who's been through and who, has an encouraging word, because they know how it feels to be discouraged. What does that mean to you?
I think it's important to do, because so many times in life we feel alone, like we really don't have anybody. Can be in a whole room full of people, and people say it all the time, but until you really can be in a room full of people and literally feel invisible to people, it's important to think about others' feelings. It's really important to put yourself in their shoes. We say all the time, oh, I'm sorry, but are you really sorry? You know what I'm saying? Or are you just saying it because that's the cliche thing to say. You know, we always say, even when a person say, "Oh, I'll pray for you." You know what I'm saying? Like, are you truly praying? Because I believe that if you truly do and you truly feel sorry, then God will meet your expectations. What you praying for them for, next thing you know, you getting a blessing. You like, well, where did that come from? It's because you were sincere. If we're not sincere in our hearts, then
And praying for somebody else,
right,
being concerned about somebody else.
yeah.
Hmm.
You know, I have this thing where with people, it's like, I can't say the word, but it's low tolerance. You know, especially when I know that you can and you can't and you don't. I have low tolerance for that. And that's why I say you have a leader's heart, because you just, you know, you just embrace it. And me on the other hand, I'll be trying to be like, just at least smile, Chantae. Just at least give us, even if it's a half of it, just at least give us a smile. Just so, because you just never know. Because people only give you half of what they want you to see. You know, a person can be, and I always think about that with you. You can post something on Facebook smiling, but be feeling something totally different. You know what I'm saying? We're only going to show that outer glass of what you want people to feel like my life is like, but you don't really know what I'm really feeling or what I'm really going through or anything. So we have to be just cautious of that. We have to be cautious.
Do you think that there are enough people nowadays who, because even Bishop alludes to this, of how it's seemingly like we're numb to the pains and things that are going on around us. And sometimes I kind of feel that way. I can, I feel like I can look at a person and kind of tell that something is going on, but how often do they have a smile on? And our discernment is off. And we're thinking, we see them with a smile and think that they're okay, but on the inside, they're suicidal and ready to be done, you know?
What's your question?
Oh. Just the thought of what do you feel, when you think about the people that we walk past on a daily basis, and the fact that there are people hurting. Do you think that we become numb as society to those that are hurting around us?
Yeah, we do. I do. I feel that way because we're numb ourselves. So many people,
Glad I asked
so
that.
many people are hurting themselves. And it's like, how can you hurt somebody else and you're hurting? You know what I'm saying?
How can you help
how
somebody?
can you help somebody? You know, like, I'm giving you my last $2. I don't have it, but I'm gonna give it to you. You know, what benefit is that? Nobody's really benefiting in that moment, because now I'm gonna need to ask somebody, or no, I'm gonna need it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it comes into the, you haven't talked about missing pieces, but that's where missing pieces and things like that need to come in place, because you're there for each other. You're not in this walk alone. Yeah, like that's the whole point of not feeling alone, not actually being alone, because I don't have the testimony that you have, but I do know that I felt the way that you possibly have felt before. So I can be a helping hand, or if I don't, I know somebody that possibly have. Instead of walking past and just ignoring the situation, lend a helping hand. Even if you can't physically help, there's somebody that can.
And there's something that you can do.
Yeah.
I've often felt kind of helpless, especially when it comes to money type things. Like I just know that if God blessed me with wealth, that I would be one of those who is out making an impact in the community. We were talking about what would you do if you were blessed with a significant amount of money? And my first thought was, those that would want to ask me for money, I would put them to work. I'm not just giving anybody any money, but I would become an employer to be able to pay them to do something, because the work that Jay asked me, just around the house, some things that can be done. So it's plenty of work to be done. So if I had the money to pay them, somebody is going to be blessed. In fact, I feel like communities will be blessed if God gave it to us. And so then when you don't have it, it kind of feels like I can't do something, but the truth is we still have something to offer.
that makes me think about the homeless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as much food as we waste, as
Oh,
much
God.
thing that we let sit in a cabinet in a refrigerator
And expire, as
and
you said.
expire. You know, the saying is one man's trash is another person's treasure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just offer, like you just offer it.
Mhm.
You just never know how you can be a blessing to somebody.
You know, I do receive my rebuke for not bringing up Missing Pieces, and that's what's under your name as the CEO of Missing Pieces. But you know, I know that even in Missing Pieces, you haven't gotten it to where you have envisioned for it to be, and it just kind of reminds me of the Jay Bass Today show, and that this has been in my heart to do for years, probably well over a decade. Well over a decade. And I've had the email for years. I probably need to go back and try to figure out when did I establish this email, but it's been because this has been in the birthing canal and being birthed. And for a long time, it seemed like it was not ever going to come.
Yeah.
But even though it's not on Oprah level or some of these who get in talk shows now, like Jennifer Hudson and these different ones, Sherry Shepherd, all these different ones, they have their shows now, but we've talked about this before. We don't know where they started. And at least we are being faithful as much as possible to show up and honor our commitments to do these shows on a weekly basis. And so as we get ready to log off, that's my question I always want to ask those that are my guests, to leave a final word of encouragement to our listening audience. And you know how it feels as someone who you believe that God gave you the vision for Missing Pieces. You know that that vision and the mission of that ministry is a powerful, life-changing ministry, but it's just seemingly like it's not moving, especially in the way that you believe God gave it to you, and you've hosted a conference, you've been talking to people about it, but it's still not moving. And I just share with you that I personally understand because of the Jay Bass Today show, T-Lock, you know that, Jay Bass Ministries, that all these, so I'm ready for this word of encouragement myself. But those of us that we're in the home, we know that God gave this to us. And our yes, because we said yes, we find ourselves being shattered, we find ourselves being broken because of that yes. Because it is, I'm sorry, but it is something to get a vision that you know is life-changing and that will benefit those who connect with it.
Yeah.
And then you're steady reaching out and making it clear that the doors are open, that it's available. And I'm talking about T-Lock, and I'm thinking about these kind of things, that you're letting them know that that opportunity is there, and little to no response. What's the encouragement in a situation like that?
Keep going. Keep going no matter what, because if God gave it to you, he is going to see it through. One thing I know is that God could give you something and you may not act upon it. And then God can give you something, you act upon it, you may not get the response. But anyway it goes, if it's a God-given vision, he has to answer. He has to fulfill the promise that he gave you, or the vision that he gave you. I just want to tell anybody that want to think about starting doing, even if it's with a little to none, just do it, because you just never know like how it can just blow up overnight. Things can change literally overnight, and if it just helps one, it's worth it. If it's helping you, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because your healing or your work, your tenacity, all of that comes from you just working, just getting up, doing it. Get up, dress up, show up, and do it. Just do it.
I'm supposed to be closing, but when you said that, it just made me think, because I testified to you of how, even though it was 4 of us, but 3 T-Lock members at rehearsal, that I really felt like I was where I was supposed to be, and realized that I'm literally living the life I've been praying for. This is what I've been praying for. It doesn't look like what I've been praying for, but there's so much that is manifested. actually able to stand up and teach and to have, work with someone on the organ and work with y'all and trying to teach the parts and writing new music right there on the spot. And all those kind of things are happening, and it's happening right now. And so thank you, because it's happening now. As I think we talked about this before too, it's happening now because of the things that were set in place before now. I think I shared with you just, as an example of that, as the writer that God has used to pen the songs of the J Bass Songbook, I wouldn't have the desire now to release volume 7, 8, 9, and 10 if I hadn't written the songs that fill those volumes back then. Yeah. And, sometimes we can be so hard on ourselves. We can be so hard on ourselves because of the things that we have done that were negative. But do we really give ourselves credit for the positive things that we have done that have made a good, fruitful impact in our lives? And because, we've talked about this even in Bishop's book, that it's because we bore fruit that we have been pruned so that we can bear more fruit.
But, I'm going to say this. I know you're trying to close, but even though Missing Pieces is not where I wanted to be, I cannot say no one was not helped at Your Time Is Now conference and Shatter conference. It's because of the push after Your Time Is Now, I got shattered. And because your push after Shatter is why we're doing Shatter in the Cost of a Yes. So it's helping somebody, even though it's we envision it, but we don't know what God's plan was. It may have been just a small group to be, helped in it, although we wanted to be nationwide and all that. God may just said, help the few that I give you. Help the little crumb.
Of a small, of the few.
And then you do that, and then let's watch it flourish and blossom and all of that.
Wow. I was thinking too about how, when you said that about the conferences, how it's interesting as we host things, we see kind of the full picture, but then when we hear from those who actually attended and hear how blessed they were, how excited they are, and those kind of things, it really does make a difference, and it makes it worth all the hell that you went through, that in spite of that, to know that there was some good that came out of it.
To look at Facebook and see still being tagged Shattered 2024 this February. Wow. I'm like, okay, Lord, okay. I don't feel it, but clearly it wasn't for me to feel it. It was for somebody else. It was for somebody else. So it's worth it.
And you know what? But if you had not ever, if that conference and hosting it had not shattered you in a new, fresh way, broke you, broke what was already broke too should be shattered. We wouldn't have the thought of doing Shattered the Cost of a Yes, because we realized the revelation that it was your yes that caused it. Yeah. And sometimes, I think you alluded to this earlier, but sometimes it's the cost of the work that we're doing. It's the cost of the cross that we have to bear. That's the cost, is to be torn down. We sing the songs about being buked and scorned, talked about sure as you're born, but then when we get talked about, or when things happen that come up that are simply a part of the territory. Yeah. I think we've talked about this before too. And I really am trying, because I had to go to church, but it's something to say that I want higher heights or go to deeper depths. God take me to a new level, and I want all of this good, not recognizing. I think this is even in Crushing as well, but we know Bishop has preached messages about this, that the more I'm blessed, the more I'm burdened.
Yeah.
So if I'm complaining every time God blesses me because of the burdens that are coming along with it, how many more times is God going to continue to bless me?
Why would he?
Yeah, and then, because think about it, if we know that we're constantly blessing someone and they're constantly complaining, how do you feel? And I've had to take inventory of that on both ends of that. in my life, you know, that we do. I think we were kind of talking about it earlier, just about compassion things, to recognize that there are people who are truly a blessing to our lives. And no matter the things that we see as burdens, you have to at least be able to balance and see that there is a blessing, even though there may be a burden.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Very, very, very true. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to accept, but you got to know it. Golly. Okay, I just had a.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, Chantae, I want to thank you so much for being my guest this week on the J Bass Today Show. I will be having you back once you are able to talk about this new venture in your life, because I'm looking forward to how that pans out for you. But thank God for this new first season for you. And thank you again. Okay. Do we all right? Put a good smile at me.
It's the J Bass Today Show. Now I'm telling you.